I thought I was motivated for success before I had kids. Oh my God. Now it's all on the line. And if you don't give your family, your children, the best chance, well, then you're not a man. And as far as I'm concerned, so I attach my whole identity to, what I can provide for my family. So I believe that's the biggest anchor and the biggest pushing factor for business. It's wonderful. Every man should have kids because you don't know what true hunger is until you have kids.
Welcome to the Onsite podcast. We chat with contractors, educators, industry professionals about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's fucking get into it.
What's up? We are back December 30th. Welcome back to the Onsite podcast. Today we have got one of the contractors that we're working with, Fraser, with Black Belt Renovations in Vancouver. I'm super excited to get into this with you, Fraser. We've been working together for just over a month now, I believe, maybe two.
I think it's exactly 2, sure.
Yeah, just about 2 months now. And so Fraser's located in Vancouver. He's got a high-end renovation company, and I'm excited to dig into this with you a little bit more. Fraser, tell us about who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Okay, my name's Fraser Dodich. I was born and raised in Prince George and moved down to Vancouver when I was, 10 years old. I've been here ever since. I started in the trades at 14 years old. So I started riding my bike to construction sites in the summer, concrete forms at 14 years old, and I've been doing it ever since. 29 years.
29 years. Okay, well, that's not going to tell us your age, but we won't we won't dig into that. Cool, man. Well, hey, I'm excited to dig into this with you. I've seen a lot of your work online. It's super high-end, high quality. You've got a great team behind you. A lot of our calls, you bring your entire team to the call, and I love that about you because it shows that you're intentional with a lot of the strategy that we're discussing and helping you implement. And it's a small percentage of people that do that, if I'm being completely honest. Most people bring themselves or they're number two, but they don't bring their whole team. And so I'm curious, this is kind of going a little bit off, but why do you bring your whole team to the call? What's the intention behind that?
I've kind of, in order to be successful in business, I've read a lot of books on leadership and successful business and whatnot. And I think that the key to success is surrounding yourself with really, really good people and then impacting them. A lot of smart people say that, if you're running a company and you're the smartest person in the room or you know the most about the jobs, then you're doing it wrong. So for me, it's just about them being a part of everything. And, if they're there, then they're immersed in it fully and they feel like it's theirs as well. I don't want them to feel like this is my company and I'm telling them what to do.
Right.
I want to feel like this is our company and we're building something together.
Right, giving them that ownership vibe, so they kind of are more involved. And I mean it's working because a lot of the calls that we run together, super intentional. They're strategic, and I give you guys a lot of shit to do on our calls, and you guys do a large portion of it. And in most cases, people can't do that much because they don't have a large team of people. And it's not even that you have a huge team. It's that your team is intentional in their direction and in their part with your business. So I love that about you. I think that's really awesome. And I think that's why, you're moving in the direction that you're moving in. So tell us a little bit about Black Belt Renovations. How was it founded? What's the story behind the company?
Classic story. I'm sure a lot of, guys who've struck out on their own, they have the exact same story. Basically, I framed houses in the framing boom, and then I did concrete in the concrete boom. And then I said, I don't want to work in the rain and cold anymore. This sucks. I'm going to go do renovation. Ended up working for a couple reno companies, and again, here's the classic part. I'm sure a lot of guys can relate to it. I was going to work every day thinking, I know way more than these guys, and I'm way better than this guy who owned the company. And so I just saw him making a bunch of money off me, and then I was like, whoa, I can do this on my own, no problem. And then, I made the jump and enter 5 years of trudging through shit like everyone else.
When was that? When did you do that? When did you go on your own?
I want to say I was 28 years old. So about 15 years ago.
Okay. Hell yeah. Yeah.
It was a woman too. I met my wife and I realized, I got to be a way better man for this woman. So that was a lot. That was a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it pushed you. It pushed you definitely to provide from a different perspective. It's as a man, I think when you're a provider and you see your worth being misutilized, it really, like, a true man stands up for the battle. You know what I mean? Like, when you're working for somebody else and they're not empowering you like you are for your team to make them feel like they're a part of something, to make them not want to look for other opportunities. So I think, yeah, one of the biggest things for a man that understands his worth, when he's working alongside an existing business owner, right? He's doing all the work, making the business all the money. And you get to a point in that process where you're just like, well, fuck, I can literally do what this guy's doing. But you don't see all the other things that he's doing in the back end. And I think that that's the biggest element that most people overlook in the whole business development process. But strong values will carry you through some hard shit. And then determination will also help you through some of that stuff. I think also having a family and people that you have to be accountable to also will carry you through some of that shit. So 15 years ago, founded Black Belt Renovations, located in Vancouver. And what areas of Vancouver do you service specifically?
To be honest, I always say we go wherever the money is. So whatever makes the most sense. Obviously, the more bridges, the farther we have to go. We're located in Maple Ridge. That cost does get rolled into the job. Like if we get a job out in West Van or UBC, but we find ourselves working everywhere. To be honest, it's a lot of North Van and Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. So maybe not even where the money is, where the ideal client would be, because...
Yeah, being facetious, follow the money, but
the ideal client is the one that will have the money that is, ultimately going to take care of those larger, more exciting projects. Because again, as you grow in business, you want better challenges. Your team wants challenges. You don't want to do the same shit each and every day. You want to find those opportunities. And that's part of, I think, what makes you unique and your business special. And, over the time that we've been able to work together, I can see clearly that you're built for some really unique creative opportunities. And so I know something will come very significant for you in 2026. And I'm excited for you about that because you and your team are built for that. So that's awesome. So 15 years in the business, in the renovation industry. I'm sure there are some great stories that you've, been able to experience throughout that process. Asked you that earlier on, so I'm curious if you were able to kind of think about, something that's happened over the past 15 years that, really stands out as a defining moment when you were like, holy fuck, it's all on me. It's all on me. Like, at the end of the day, when we make that decision, we're working for somebody else, right? And then we decide we're going to go on our own. And we look at the grass is greener on the other side, so to speak. And sometimes it is. In most cases it is, because you got to be in control of a lot of other things. But there's a point in that where you're just like, holy fuck, this is all on me. And so is there any stories that you feel you could share with us about, what that moment in time was like for you?
Well, I mean, I've always known it sort of was all on me. Being the tip of the spear is really, really hard. I would say probably the biggest defining moment for myself as a leader in the last 15 years, I had a full-blown clinical nervous breakdown about 3.5 years ago. It lasted a year. I didn't sleep more than 2 hours a night for about a year. I was having panic attacks all day, every day. It was bad. I thought I was going to die. Turned out, in hindsight, to be the best thing that ever happened to me, because I learned how to be sustainable in this business. So pre-mental breakdown, I was a people pleaser. Everything that everybody said to me negative would just really stick to me. I would ruminate on it all night, every night, worry about everything. All these people are disappointed in me. They're mad at me. We were late today. They're mad at me. They're going to tell all their friends that we suck. And I just took it all on. And then it took that literal mental breakdown for me to learn the tools to be sustainable. And without it, I don't think I ever would have learned those tools. That's changed everything, to be honest.
Right. Going through some hard shit where you feel like you're not capable of fulfilling the deliverables that you are holding you and your team accountable for, that is a place of growth and development. I think that is a point where you recognize, when you're on your own, that when there is a big expectation, I know you're out there hunting for that $1 million project and those larger projects. And like when those big expectations are on the line, there is a high stress point to that, because you want success for the client, you want success for your family, you want success for your team. And a lot of those critical decisions that need to be made along the way are on your shoulders. Like you said, the point of the sphere. I think that's, a great analogy. And it's a part that a lot of us can relate to. And I think, I had the same experience throughout my process, if I'm being completely honest, and even in this industry as coaching, there's different levels of pressure. Not a nervous breakdown by any means, but there's definitely points of pressure. And I think, I'd love to learn about some of your coping mechanisms that you've been kind of weathered into, I guess, so to speak. But for me specifically, I really try to give myself the space to deal with whatever challenge may come up. I always believe that every problem has a solution. I enter every problem with that mindset. It doesn't matter what it is. And I also delete negative people like immediately. It's like, I'm ruthless. If you're negative, you're gone. I just don't care. I'm not going to allow those people in because they generally do become very toxic and draining. But from a challenge perspective, my biggest thing or my biggest solution is to just patiently look at the problem, try to give your resolution or your response to the problem immediately, but don't send it, don't push it anywhere, just put it somewhere and then come back to it when you're ready to revisit it, look at it again, rewrite it, organize whatever it might be, if it's an email response or text message or it's going to be a phone call. And so I continue to prep myself until I feel I got to a response that feels more comfortable. And sometimes that takes 24 hours, sometimes it takes 48 hours. I really try to get it done as quickly as possible. I don't like things going to the next day. I like to try to do things in the same day because I feel that the next day brings a different level of emotion. And if I'm carrying the same shit that I was dealing with from yesterday to the next day, then I'm not prepared to deal with those problems that I'm going to experience that day. And so that's typically how I've been managing, critical or crisis scenarios. And I'm just curious, like, what are some coping mechanisms that you use to help you go through some challenging things?
A lot of it is, honestly, like you said, is so pre-breakdown was very, very hard on myself about everything. That internal monologue that we have in our heads, that was very, very mean, and I come from a professional athletics background, so that kind of internal voice did serve me. It got me to a certain point. It got me to the point where it couldn't take me any farther and it was hurting me. And now, I've learned the tools to, you got to be kind to yourself. You have to. Can't be so hard on yourself. B, you got to understand that I tell my project managers, I'm like, if you're the type of person that doesn't like stress or doesn't like, high intensity situations, doesn't like conflict, you should probably find a different job because your job is literally managing conflict. That is the description of your job. So wrapping your head around that, like realizing that this is what it is. Like, why get upset about, this shit's happening on this project over here, can't make that payment, whatever, that this client doesn't want to pay. Like, this is all, like, reframing it to the fact that this is all normal. This is not out of the ordinary. This is what it is, right? Yeah. So instead of viewing it as like a bad thing, no, this is what I do. This is my job. So, not taking it on, just, I've gotten really, really good at saying, is what it is. This is what we're doing now. All right. Guess we're here now. All right, let's go from here. It's just constantly just rolling with the punches.
Hey, we've got an ad here. Make sure to pay attention. What's up, guys? Are you a contractor or business owner looking to take things to the next level? Well, I've got something for you. The Elite Builder Society is a community that helps contractors grow and scale. For $49 a month, you can have access to 20 group coaching calls. Look, you're probably wondering, how am I going to show up to 20 calls, Brandon? That's a lot. And yeah, it is a lot for $49 a month, but every call is recorded so you can watch it at your leisure. But you get the best experience when you're live on the call with us. Okay, at the end of every webinar, there will be a Q&A where you can ask the industry expert questions that you can implement into your business. Look, if you're ready to take things to the next level for $49 a month, go to ebsworks.com and register today. I look forward to seeing you inside the community.
And that is really what it comes down to. I think where people kind of bury themselves is where they feel that there isn't a solution to the problem. I feel like when they're, playing imposter syndrome on themselves, saying that they're not good enough or this is an abnormal scenario. It isn't. It's literally like every business has shit to deal with. Every business, doesn't matter what business exists. If you could look at somebody online and you think that they're doing just fucking ducky, they're not. They're going through some form of shit in some way, and they're dealing with a similar problem just in a different scenario. So I think that, once you understand that this is just part of the process, this is part of the process, and the way you navigate those problems really ultimately will dictate your success. And so I'm glad that, I'm not glad that you went through this, this critical moment in your life, but I'm glad that you got through it. Yeah.
I think we all know those moments in life. We've all had them. Those because they're very common in the human experience. Those moments that while you're in them, they're the worst thing in the world, and you're saying, "Why, God? Why are you doing this to me? Why me?" And then after you've come through these moments, you end up stronger. You end up with way more perspective. You end up with way more gratitude. You end up a better person, and then you look back a couple of years later on the time that you were saying, "Why, God? Why me?" And now you go, "Thank you, God. Thank you." I needed that experience. That experience changed my entire life. When you're in 100%. The storm, it's really bad. But strong sailors need storms.
It's great. Look at this guy. He's got all kinds of analogies today. I love it. I really like the head of sphere. That one was good. The sailor one, I'll use that one as well. So,
and the tip of the spear is hard. Like a lot of people think it's like all hunky dory. Oh, he's the boss. He gets to do whatever he wants. He gets to.
Well, no, yeah. Pause there though, because 15 years ago you were that guy too, right? Where you were like, and maybe not directly like that, right? Where it was like, oh, I can do all this shit, and not seeing that he was probably seasoned, in some way, shape, or form.
Like 15 years later, people ask me what my job description is. And, if it's a person that I'm on a candid enough level with to kind of be joking with, I say literally what I do for a living is I eat plates and plates and plates of shit. That's what I do. I'm the first line of defense. I'm where that's the thing is like when you're a CEO of a company, when you're the leader, when you're the boss, overwhelmingly majority of your experience is negative. And the reason is because people don't bring you your team's out there killing it, doing great things, being successful. People aren't calling you. They're just happy. Everybody's happy. Only things that come across my desk are the shit, that major problems that need to be solved. So you kind of get this skewed perspective. Like you think everything's going wrong in your business, but it's not the case. The fact is you're just getting all the problems because that's your job.
No, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we do the weekly check-in in the community is because we very rarely brag about the good shit that's going on. We very rarely recognize the good shit. And sometimes that good shit that you're experiencing or that other people might be experiencing is just enough fuel to give the other guy the motivation to get through the shit that he's going through, because we're all dealing with shit in some way, shape, or form, and if everybody just posted about all the shit that they're going through, well, then it would just feel like you're in a funnel of negativity, which social media can be, unfortunately diluted with negativity. And so that's why, we try to create that perspective of the weekly check-ins where we give people that opportunity to just brag about themselves, just brag, because if we don't brag about what we're doing, then it doesn't give, the other people the motivation that they need. All right. Enough about that shit.
That's actually hard for me. Your weekly check-in is hard for me because it's to your point, like as all high achieving people, like that I know anyways, I'm really guilty for it. I never, ever stop to celebrate a win. So I will hit the top of a mountain. I'll go, this is nice. Okay, there's the next mountain. And it's just always climbing, and it's never stopping to celebrate a win. And so actually going on to your weekly check-in and talking about the awesome things that happened and whatnot is actually challenging because I've never done it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really healthy for you to do. My good friend, he was actually just on the podcast a couple weeks ago, Justin. He owns a gym, and so this guy moved his gym from one location to the other, and he holds himself extremely accountable, just like you. He's got high expectations, wants to deliver the best of the best of the best to everyone. He internalizes a lot of, what people think a little bit because he wants to give people the best experience humanly possible. He moved his gym from one building to another. So he went from a 4,000 square foot space to a 10,000 square foot space, limited cash flow, best equipment in the city, small population, trying to build this big experience, right? And so in less than 12 months, what he did, I think, was absolutely fucking miraculous. Got more equipment, finished up the space, got better lights, made just this cool freaking place that, you know, would have been very challenging because he also bought the building in the process. So he endured a huge expense. Yeah, he's all in. Huge space.
That's a burn the boats mentality.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where you got to get to at some point in your business. What I told him, he was like, just running. And I said, dude, stop for 1 second. Look around here. This is fucking crazy. He's, yeah, but I got to go do this, and this. I was like, I get it. You got to go do that. But like, just for 1 second, you and your wife need to sit down and just meditate in the success that you've created, because it's really hard for you to continue to fuel yourself each and every week if you don't like recognize the small victories. You know, we just did a group call the other day about goals and talking about, you know, how do we prepare? And it's unique that we're saying this right now because it's December 30th when this is being aired. But like one of the exercises that I started doing a couple of years ago was I go to my camera roll, I take lots of photos of my family, work, all that kind of stuff. I go to my photos and I go all the way back 365 days. And I start on that one day and I just for like a couple hours, literally just scan through my photos and revisualize that moment. It's the craziest experience of life because what's so cool about it is that you don't understand how much you actually do in a year. Like it's wild. And some people do like alarming amounts and don't even recognize it. Some people do an okay amount, but everybody always progresses. And so if you've got a progressive mindset, you're in a group like ours where you're pushing yourself, you're striving for greatness, you will see significant growth or a form of growth. And so it's a great exercise that I don't think we've had a chance to talk about that, but it's definitely something that I recommend that you do, you know, with you and your family. And I tell my kids to do it too. I'm like, go to your phone and like check all the way back. You know, and just see what you look like, you know, and, and
just
how
send me into. I got a 3-year-old daughter, man. A year ago, she was 2. I'll just be crying the whole time.
I mean, dude, it pushes you. It's more fuel. And that's where the weekly check-ins come from. You know, it's always good to sit down and reflect. There was a guy that I worked with. He was out of New York and he was like, dude, like the coolest thing is reading all these stories every week. The coolest thing is reading all these stories from everyone. And it takes some time. You got to separate yourself, but it's kind of like a form of meditation where you get to experience other people's shit and where you get a platform to brag about your success. And so it's very healthy. And so do it from a place of understanding that, you know, my weekly check-in, you know, that you would post is about, you know, something that other people would need as motivation, because their motivation for you one day might be the motivation that they needed from you the other day. And it just kind of works full circle. You know, I know that not every day is peaches and rainbows. You know, as a general contractor, we're crisis negotiation. That's literally what it is, like problem solve all fucking day. Sometimes it's good to just take a breath and read something special. So maybe that'll help you with, you know, your weekly check-ins moving forward. Yeah. Okay. Talked about lessons learned. Let's talk about your ideal client. You learned a lot of shit about who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. Now let's talk about who you want to work with and why.
That's actually something that I have locked in about the last 6 months, because the last year of our lives, we had the biggest nightmare client we have ever had. It was a over $1 million project, and the client was an absolute nightmare, to the extent that we changed our policies. Basically, in our conditions now, the client is not allowed to be on site at all unless they book a meeting with us, because she would just come to site all day, every day, stand over every trade and tell them they were doing their job wrong and steal all their time and put their mentality in the gutter. And so, long story short, the ideal client, there's just like, honestly, there's one factor that separates an ideal client from a poor client, and that is trust. Trust your contractor. If your client doesn't trust you, it's going to be a nightmare. They don't trust you, why did they hire you? So there's kind of a bad stigma attached to contracting, and you know, we could get into that for hours about the fact.
But like, what about if the trust changes? Like, what, you know how like relationships, for example.
She tricked.
Oh, Houdini.
She was just great in the planning and the budgeting and everything. And then as soon as the job started, I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
And so maybe that's a reflection of probing questions to try to figure out and unlearn more about our clients. These are things that I talk with contractors all the time about. I think that every customer has a person connected to them, right? I think that every customer has an ideal contractor. And sometimes, depending on where we're at in our business, whether or not, we're open for business, so to speak, we take on jobs we shouldn't take on. And then midway through the project, we're like, why did we do this? I've had the same scenario where it's like, I went against my gut and it kicked me. And so those are lessons that I don't think you want to learn. I think they're not lessons that need to be learned. I think that you just have to understand that this is a person that you don't want to work with, and here's my reasons, and just move forward. So I'm glad that you recognize that, and I'm glad that you're going through it. Being in Vancouver, there's so much opportunity, and you're spread out. You're working, so to speak, where the money is and where the great clients are. Just gives you so much opportunity, but also a challenge traveling and navigating that territory, finding suppliers, vendors that are also willing to go with you, and so how do you overcome some of that traveling distance? Because what would you say your distance would be would you be 2 hours at the max?
No. Okay. So when we have a job downtown Vancouver right now, we're located in Maple Ridge. I am minimum 2 hours each way.
Gross.
So we kind of fold some of that travel time into the cost of the job. Like when we're planning the job, we consider that cost and we roll it in so that, the guys get compensated for their time and fuel. B, it's really about using your time wisely. So I actually use my time in my travels to call my clients, make all the phone calls I'm supposed to make. If I'm being completely honest, maybe I text and check emails a little more than I should while I'm driving. And as well, constant learning. So I'm very hungry for knowledge as a human being, and I always want to get better. So I'm like podcasts, books on leadership, on running a successful business. I'm always using that time wisely, not just listening to the radio and dozing off. You can use that time wisely. And then at the end of the day, I also just kind of love driving. So I suppose I'm lucky. Some of our guys are just every day, man, this sucks. But
no, and the cool part is, guys, if you're listening to this, one of the things that I've recognized coaching people is there's one differentiating factor that exists with people that are going to win, people that are going to be successful, people that are going to overcome challenges, is action. And so, Fraser doesn't sit there and listen to the radio, waste his time diluting his brain with just poisonous shit that doesn't add any value, that doesn't progress him. He's taking 2 hours, 4 hours a day to continue to experience growth, and I don't know if you're doing it all day. Personally, I do a lot of driving as well. I don't know how long I have the radio on for, if ever. For the most part, my radio is dialed in on a podcast, dialed in on a chat GPT exploration of, tell me more about XYZ. And I think that that's one of the differentiators. It's drop the ego, drop your need to be I don't need to do all that stuff. Well, you do, you do. If you want to stay sustainable, you got to continue to grow and develop. And I think that's, a really big differentiator. So the travel for you, I guess, becomes beneficial for your growth of your business,
I would say so, yeah. And it's to your point, the more you learn about business and the better you get, the more you realize how much more you can learn and better you can get.
Yeah, it's endless.
Young and stupid. I was young and stupid and arrogant, and this business, I don't know about all other businesses, but general contracting and renovations will drag you through the mud and beat you to hell and humble the living shit out of you.
100%.
15 years in this business will humble you.
Yeah. Well, and it will, especially if, you're not doing some of those things. I love that you're in this next season of business. We started working together a couple months ago, and you're in this next season of business. I can see you're like a sponge. I will come up with the craziest strategies, and you're just yeah, let's do it. And not a lot of people are willing. They don't have the balls to take action on, big opportunity. And so it's exciting working with you, and I'm excited for your future.
What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Onsite podcast. So here's the deal. We want to grow this show, and we need your help. It's simple. Pay the tax, share the show. That's it. Let's get back into it.
So I want to dig in a little bit more about, what is one of the hardest things that you think runs within running a renovation company?
Honestly, I don't think it's just the renovation company. I think a lot of businesses would agree, though. The hardest thing about business and the limiting factor 100% of the time is people.
Mm.
Your trades, how they behave, how they show up. It's taken me a decade to find a good trade in each sort of category. And I still don't have a few. Like it's tough out there. So also the clients, it's just the hardest thing is dealing with all the personalities and what people don't
Yeah.
talk, like when you're in people's homes, that is very, very personal.
Yeah.
So people react differently, and it can be really great, and sometimes it can be really taxing. So always the people.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. And dealing with, the different personalities that exist across the board is a part of this, this industry. And because you're dealing with so many different people, like now that I'm in the coaching space and I deal with so many different contractors, they all have a person, like they all have a person that can solve a problem. And so they're building all these relationships each and every day. And they're fostering all of these relationships each and every day with their clients, with their subs, with their suppliers, with their vendors. And that is a lot to maintain. It's like you have hundreds of micro little relationships all over the place that you're trying to manage, maintain, and it's all around people's personalities. You're having to change. You have to be a bit of a chameleon when you approach some of these people, because like they all, some might be conservative, some might be liberal, or whatever's going on, and you're trying to approach them all with kind of a neutral boundary where you give them a platform to speak comfortably, and then you can find a way to kind of get what you need out of them, because that is truly the only way to really move things forward is when you can comfortably have that conversation with people and really get a little bit more personal with them. So, I would agree that is probably one of the most challenging things in this industry. So I want to dig into this a little bit more. So you're a husband, a father. Tell us about your family a little bit.
Well, I mean, I live to serve two women. So my wife is the greatest. I can't say enough good about her. She changed me. Like I said, my wife is traditionally beautiful. Like anybody who knows my wife, say, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And so when I met her, when I was, she was 25, I think. So like right at the peak. Oh, she was like a 27 out of 10. And so when I originally hooked up with my wife, I was a bum. I was a MMA fighter. I spent 5 hours a day in the gym, and I sold dime bags to my friends for extra money. And I realized I'm gonna have to become more to keep this woman. Like I want to be a better man for this woman, because I'm not gonna be able to keep her if I keep this shit up. Yeah, so I mean, my wife again catalyzed my success. I would not be where I am without her. Absolutely not. And then, I didn't even think I wanted to have kids, and my wife really did. And when I was 37, I said, "Oh, okay, let's do it." And it turns out it's true what they say, like that changes everything. And I thought I was motivated for success before I had kids. Oh my God. Now it's all on the line. And if you don't give your family, your children, the best chance, well, then you're not a man. And as far as I'm concerned, so I attach my whole identity to, what I can provide for my family. So I believe that's the biggest anchor and the biggest pushing factor for business. It's wonderful. Every man should have kids, because you don't know what true hunger is until you have kids.
That is probably the nicest statements that anyone's ever said about their wife and their special person. And I think that I agree. Like, if you don't have a family that you're fighting for, just the perspective is different. Like, the battle is different. And so, I love that you are anchored to that. And I think that, she'll really love hearing what you had to say about her on this episode. So, Fraser, getting close to the end of this episode, tell us a little bit more. Like, just let's. Is there anything else you want to share? About what the coaching has been like? Anything that you want to share with the listeners today?
Yeah. So let's talk about the coaching. I have been trying to expand my business. I've tried probably 4 times. Like real good effort. Like, let's take on more business. Let's hire more people. Let's get bigger. And I've fallen on my face every single time. I think, and then finally, you know, my accountant, Josh, who you work with as well, he actually recommended, what's his name? Dan
Martel.
because he's working with him. And I watched Dan Martell's stuff. I said, well, that's, you know, he's great and stuff, but he's not specific to trades and construction. You know, he doesn't understand. He's like, you know, post 7 times a day and this and that. And it's like, man, like, it's not like that. Like, you're a social media guy. So, you know, he introduced me to you. And I think that, you know, this time I'm kind of like, burn the boats. Let's go all in. Like, as you know, I'm willing to spend money and spend money to make money and whatnot. I feel pretty confident that, you know, with your help and your guidance, that I'm going to be successful this time with the expansion. So it's basically like, if you want to go far or you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So now having your guidance, I feel very optimistic because this is what you do. Like, you help expand and grow businesses, and you're an expert at this. I think that the most important thing anybody can do in their life is surround themselves with people that are better than them at what they need and are where they want to be.
Love that, except the alarm's going off right now. So in the background, you can hear the fire alarm. Nobody can ever plan a fucking anything, but at the end of the day, this is just how it is. You got to roll with the shit. And so we're in the midst of a fire alarm testing day, recording a podcast. Fraser and I have had to dodge, you know, the dog getting upset in the background, people coming in and out. And so, Fraser, I appreciate you dealing with this craziness today. And
Another day in paradise.
It's another day. Yeah, we got to deal with shit all the time. You know, I appreciate what you had to say, and you know, I also follow Dan Martell. I think he's a great guy. I think he has very specific clients. I think the big differentiator between him and I is that I've lived 25 fucking years of the hardest industry, in my opinion, and I've lived through all of it. You know, and I've also been able to work with hundreds of people that are living the same experience in some way, shape, or form. So I'm able to compound the different strategies that actually help them grow their business. And so when I throw you these ideas, it's not because I just think it's a great idea. It's because I actually have seen it work. And most people aren't willing to do what actually fucking works. And that's just the reality. Most people aren't willing to take action. I can't wait. I'm going to actually get a shirt that says take action, because I've come across so many people that, you know, the other day I was talking to a guy from Toronto. Most of the guys in Toronto, they got it all figured out. They have their small little groups of people. They hang out, they have coffee, and that's how they solve problems. It's like, well, that's not how you fucking solve problems with the wrong people, you know? And I was talking to this guy back and forth, and at the end of the day, he's like, oh, I don't pay for coaching. And I was like, why don't you pay to experience something that you can't experience in the room where you're having coffee? Like, why wouldn't you get information from somebody that can actually change your life? And so it's frustrating for me because I'm really trying to deliver value for people, and I don't even charge a lot of money. You know, like, I don't charge what a CFO charges. I'm going to at some point. You know, I'm going to be $2,000 a month at some point. And I think there's value in what we deliver. I think there's value in the impact. You know, your business is set up to potentially make millions of dollars from just a couple ideas. And that's incredible impact. And so I appreciate you supporting me. I appreciate you trusting us with your business, and your family as well, because, you know, that's part of it as well. So this has been a great episode. Anything else you want to share to wrap this up?
I think,
so
like,
we can
wrapping
get behind the fire alarm.
Just to wrap it up, to follow up on your point, you say, you know, most people aren't willing to do, you know, what it takes, right? And that's why, you know, most people aren't successful. But truthfully, if I always come back to this, like, if you're not all in, you will not make it. You will not be successful. If you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats. You have to be all in. You have to do everything, and you have to, you know, risk and reward are directly synonymous. If you're not willing to take risks, you will never make it.
No, that is 100% true, 100% accurate. Fraser, this has been a great conversation. Where can people find you online? Where's the best place to find you?
Our Instagrams are really great. Black Belt Renovations _Inc. Facebook as well. You can find us, and blackbeltcontracting.ca online.
Awesome. There we go. Well, Fraser, this has been a great conversation. If you are from Vancouver, I apologize again about this, the test in the background, but if you're from Vancouver and you're looking for a boutique renovation contractor, Fraser and his team will 100% provide you with a incredible experience. And I know this because he shows up with intention each and every day. Fraser's been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Until next time, 2026 is coming up. So do something. Take fucking action.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes this episode of the Onsite Podcast. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please pay the tax, share the show. Guys, if you want to be a part of the Elite Builder Society, all you got to do is pay $49 a month. That's it. $49 a month. You get 20 group coaching calls every month. Okay? Go to ebsworks.com and register today. If you enjoyed the show, please pay the tax and share the show.